Ethan Carter never liked blind dates, but he absolutely despised humiliation. So when the whispers started in the restaurant, when he noticed the snickers, the staring, the phones lifted ever so slightly, he knew something was wrong. And the moment the woman walked in, nervous, clutching her small purse, scanning the room like she wasn't sure she belonged, Ethan realized he wasn't the only one being set up. Her name was Grace Miller, a single mom who looked like she'd hurried there after a long shift. And the moment her eyes met his, she froze, as if she could feel the cruel trick lingering in the air. "Were you in on it?" she whispered, voice trembling. Ethan's jaw tightened. "No. And I'm going to fix this." But neither of them knew how much tonight would change their lives forever. Grace had agreed to the blind date only because her best friend insisted she needed a break and deserved something good for once. She didn't expect anything fancy. She certainly didn't expect a reservation at one of the most expensive restaurants in the city. She walked in feeling underdressed and out of place, telling herself she could leave if things felt too weird. But then she saw the phones, then she heard the laugh, then someone whispered a little too loudly, "Wait till she finds out who he is." Humiliation dragged like a stone across her stomach. Ethan stood up the moment she stiffened, his expression darkening as he heard the same whispers. "Grace," he said softly, "please sit. I promise you, I didn't plan any of this." She hesitated, then slowly sank into the seat. But her hands were shaking. "Why would someone do this?" she asked. Ethan exhaled sharply. "Because some people are bored and cruel. And because I made the mistake of trusting the wrong people." He didn't tell her he was one of the richest men in the state. Or that his so-called friends liked to make jokes about his love life, or lack of one. Or that one of them thought it would be hilarious to match him with someone completely outside his world, just to see his reaction. But Ethan wasn't laughing. Grace glanced at the menu and gently closed it. I think this was a mistake. I should go." "Grace," Ethan said, reaching out but stopping before touching her, "can you stay? At least for dinner? Not to entertain me, just so they don't win." The pain in her eyes softened just a little. She knew what it felt like to be judged. Mocked. Looked down on. So she nodded. Dinner started stiff and quiet, but slowly the tension loosened. Grace shared that she worked as a receptionist at a dental clinic, picking up night shifts cleaning offices to support her 6-year-old son, Leo. Ethan didn't brag about anything. He didn't mention his wealth. Instead, he talked about how lonely success could feel, how he'd lost real connections, how people liked him for what he had, not who he was. Grace was surprised. This man, so polished, so confident, felt lonely, and Ethan was surprised too. Grace listened without judgment. She laughed at his dry humor. She didn't ask for anything, didn't expect anything. For the first time in years, Ethan felt seen. But when they stepped outside after dinner, the world reminded them of reality. A group of Ethan's acquaintances waited at the corner, smirking as if they expected a show point. One of them called out, "So, Ethan, how was the charity date?" Grace's face collapsed. Ethan stepped forward, fury shaking his voice. "Say one more word," he growled, "and I'll make sure none of you ever get invited to anything with my name attached to it." They backed off instantly, but the damage was done. Grace swallowed hard. "I knew it. I knew I never belonged in a place like this." "You belong anywhere you walk into," Ethan said firmly. "And they're not better than you. Not even close." But Grace backed away. "I can't deal with being a joke. Not again." She left before he could say anything else, and Ethan felt the loss like a punch. 4 days, he couldn't shake it. He didn't sleep. He didn't focus. He replayed her words, her look, the way she walked out with her head down as though she were the one who had done something wrong. He finally asked his assistant to find the dental clinic where she worked, not because he wanted to force anything, but because he couldn't let her feel discarded, not after everything she'd been through. He arrived quietly, without security or formality, holding a small toy dinosaur for Leo and a paper bag containing homemade sandwiches he'd prepared himself. Grace looked stunned to see him. "I know you don't want anything from me," Ethan said softly. "But I wanted you to know I'm not like them. And I'm not giving up." Her eyes softened, but she didn't speak. Slowly, over weeks, a friendship formed. Ethan visited the clinic sometimes, pretending he needed a cleaning. Far more often than normal, Grace invited him to meet Leo, who adored him instantly. They spent afternoons at the park, evenings eating inexpensive takeout in Grace's tiny living room, talking about everything from childhood memories to dreams they'd never shared with anyone else. But the challenge was real. Grace felt insecure beside a billionaire. Ethan felt terrified he'd drag her into a world she didn't want. People whispered. Some judged Grace for aiming too high. Others accused Ethan of charity dating. But every time they were together, the world fell quiet. They felt real. One evening, after Leo fell asleep, Grace turned to Ethan with worry in her eyes. "I don't want to be your burden," she whispered. "And I don't want you to feel sorry for me." Ethan took her hands gently. "You're not a burden," he said. "You're the first real thing in my life." Grace's eyes welled with tears. "Why me?" "Because you're strong," he said. "Because you're kind. Because you're honest. Because you stayed that night, even when everything pointed at leaving. And because I'm falling in love with you." Grace covered her mouth, tears spilling. She whispered, "I'm falling for you too." They thought the hardest part was behind them, but the real challenge came when a tabloid leaked a photo of them, spinning a cruel story that Grace was using him. Grace panicked, packing her bags, ready to run, not for herself, but to protect Leo. When Ethan arrived at her apartment, she stood at the door with trembling hands. "I can't put Leo in danger," she whispered. "I'm not strong enough for this world." Ethan stepped closer, voice cracking. "Grace. I am." He knelt, not with a ring, not with a proposal, but with something much deeper. "Let me protect you. Let me stand with you. Let me be the one who fights for you, for both of you. Please don't run from me." Grace broke down, falling into his arms. For the first time in years, she let someone hold her pain. Months later, the world stopped judging. People saw the truth in their smiles, their steadiness, their devotion. Ethan bought a small house near Grace's favorite park, not a mansion, not a symbol of wealth, but a home. A place where Leo could grow up laughing, where Grace could relax without fear, where Ethan could finally feel what love really meant. And one quiet morning, while Grace made pancakes and Leo danced around the kitchen, Ethan wrapped his arms around her and whispered, "I thank God every day for the night we were both set up." Grace smiled, leaning into him. "Me too. Because sometimes love begins with cruelty from the world, but ends with kindness strong enough to change a life. Or 3.